Apple Bloom pressed her forelegs down and straightened her hind legs as much as possible, wagging her tail in the air. Ready? Scootaloo called. Ready, she replied. Sweetie Belle looked from one to another with a worried expression. Are you sure this is a good idea? Sure, I'm sure. Apple Bloom straightened a little to lean her head over the edge of the flooring that extended just beyond the clubhouse walls. Applejack and Rainbow Dash do this all the time. From that high up? Sure. You don't sound sure. Hello? Scootaloo waved her forelegs in the air to get her attention. She's wearing my spare helmet. Isn't she? It's fine. She's safe. We're burning daylight here. There is enough to burn, Sweetie Belle remarked as she picked up the fan and she made from a sheet and folded card and waved it herself. The edge embossed with the silvery writing that folds up skirt, but those who knew Rarity's logo would have recognized one of her flyers. It was a testament to the heat and that Sweetie Belle had surrendered and used one of her sister's adverts to keep herself cool. How the heck are you two so full of energy on a day like this? We're powered by the dreams of tomorrow. Scootaloo pumped one air into the air. Yeah? Apple Bloom copied the move. She then dropped her ready stance and wiggled her tail in readiness. 3, Scootaloo intoned. 2, Apple Bloom yelled. 1, Geronimo! She pushed off her powerful hind legs and leapt into the empty space. Below she caught a sight of Sweetie Belle dropping her paper fan to cover her face, but she only had a millisecond before aiming for the empty end of the seesaw, looking up at the whole tension. She brought all 4 hooves close under her body, and she had seen Applejack do so many times. Even though she bent her joints for impact, the landing jolted through her entire body, made every scrap of breath shoot up and out through her mouth and nose. An unsightly bit of spittle shot out, but she barely noticed. She was too taken with the sight of Scootaloo rocketing up and over her head. Use your wings! Use your wings! She shouted. I'm trying! Scootaloo yelped back. Her orange feathers were a blur as she buzzed the same way she did when powering along on her scooter. However, she pretty much, it was clear that she reached the appendix of the jump, that this wasn't going to work. Slower! Apple Bloom called. Flap slower! No dice. Scootaloo just couldn't help herself. Even she began her descent. She flapped furiously, but to no avail. She crash-landed in the pile of cushions they had dragged outside for the experiment. The flapping did slow her down as she did not break any bones, but she still rolled end over end and came to rest upside down against a tree trunk. Phew! She spat out a mouthful with her own tail and scowled in frustration. Not even close. I don't know. Sweetie Belle trotted over and offered a hoof to help her up. I think you got higher that time. Higher isn't any good if it only lasts a few seconds. Scootaloo brushed herself off and removed her helmet, and she stared at it for a moment, as if she had the answers to her questions. When it refused to give them up, out of spite or lack of mouth, she tucked it under one of her foreleg and made her way to the seesaw. Thanks anyway, Apple Bloom. We could try again, Apple Bloom suggested. This time I could try to carry something real heavy to get you some great lift. The problem isn't how heavy you are, said Scootaloo. It's me. You could, try flapping those wings might slower. Apple Bloom was aware that she was an earth pony giving flying advice to the Pegasus, and the total irony of that. Even so, Scootaloo's continued inability to fly was her biggest bugbear of not having her cutie mark. Since she lived in Ponyville, she didn't really get on with the whole other Pegasi fillies in Cloudsdale. It was difficult to make play dates with ponies who had taught them Stormball was the best game in the world and laughed at any pony who couldn't dodge anything lightning bolt to sink a basket. The Cutie Mark Crusaders were dedicated to helping each other discover their special talents, so it was only natural that they want to help each other in other things too. Scootaloo winced. You reckon? Might help. She flapped experimentally. Flapping hard always makes me go faster on my scooter. Yeah, but then you're going sideways. Apple Bloom moved her hoof in a straight line from left to right. Horizontal, right? Vertical's gotta be different. Not to mention diagonal, said Sweetie Belle. Once you get into the air, you don't just go up and down or left and right. right? Right, Scootaloo nodded. Rainbow Dash does it all over the place. Right, Scootaloo puffed out her chest, as if mentioning her idol's name was some sort of magic spell. She jammed her helmet back on. Apple Bloom, what's the heaviest thing we have got in the clubhouse that you can use to weigh yourself down? I'm sorry, Scootaloo. It's okay. Scootaloo winced as she tried to put her hoof down. It's not your fault. I jumped on the other end of the teeter-totter holding a bag of rocks. That kinda defines my fault. I asked you to do it. She tried again. Pain shot her up her leg that seemed to burrow into her shoulder. Owie. Sweetie Belle leaned into shift experimentally. It was like she was some kind of doctor instead of a filly who had run around in circles, shrieking when Scootaloo canoed headfirst into a tree and knocked herself out since she had been unconscious when she fell to the earth. She didn't know how bad the fall had been, but both Sweetie Belle and Apple Bloom assured her it was a nasty one. The gigantic cut on her leg and variously other bruises agreed with them. Would you like some more bandages? Sweetie Belle asked. No, I'm good. She had bound them so tightly the first time Scootaloo had not been able to bend her legs at all, and Sweetie Belle had been forced to unwrap the cut again and rebind it. Apple Bloom probably knew about it first aid from working around heavy machinery on the farm, but Sweetie Belle had produced a pair of scissors and cut their clubhouse curtains to strip to use as bandages, so she was in charge of the trade. Unfortunately, one of her help was making Scootaloo feel less any rotten. Apple Bloom tilted her head to one side, scrunching. You don't look so good. Not one bit. I reckon we ought to get you checked by some sort of medical pony. Nice. Scootaloo's shoulders sank. Let's broadcast my embarrassment to the whole Ponyville. Scootaloo, the fearless filly who took on a tree and lost. Hey, trees are tough. I should know. Every time I try to buck one that is too big for me, I darn near break my legs. The information was cold comfort. Nevertheless, Scootaloo couldn't deny she still felt woozy. Her helmet had protected her skull from breaking, but hitting it on the side had left a bump the size of a duck egg on her head. Can you walk, Scootaloo? Apple Bloom asked. Sure I can walk. She tried to prove it, but stumbled after a few steps. That doesn't count. The ground's all bumpy. Apple Bloom looked down. Here the ground is smoother than polished grass. We should definitely get you checked, Sweetie Belle said. Come on, we better head back to town. Question. Apple Bloom raised her hoof, as if she was still in class. How is Scootaloo supposed to get back into town? She can't walk with that leg, and I wouldn't trust her going to straight line on the scooter. We can hook up the wagon and she could ride on it while we take turns on the scooter, said Sweetie Belle, replied, not bothering to ask whether this was okay at first. Scootaloo bristled out of habit. No pony could touch her scooter but her. She grabbed hold of her temper and rustled back into place. She had no right to get mad. This wasn't like home. She could trust Sweetie Belle and Apple Bloom not to wreck her precious scooter for kicks and giggles. She was more than a little protective of it, but remind herself that they all shared all sorts of things with her, since they became friends. Apple Bloom had even shared her brother when they had tried to find Cheerly a sweetheart. Sweetie Belle dashed off to fetch a wagon and dragged it back in a double quick time. Her eagerness trying out the scooter was almost palpable. She had never been permitted to ride as more than a passenger before watching Scootaloo whiz about and obviously cultivated the longing she had ever voiced. Scootaloo settled in the wagon alongside Apple Bloom and told herself of this eagerness meant Sweetie Belle would be especially careful with it. Be extra specially careful with it. She couldn't help but saying anyway. Sweetie Belle balanced her front hooves on the handlebars and pushed it tensely against the ground with one hind hoof. I will. Are you both ready? Yep, Apple Bloom answered. Yeah, Scootaloo replied with less enthusiasm. Sweetie Belle shoved off. They moved 3 inches and she shoved again. 5 inches this time. You guys are heavy. No, we're not, Apple Bloom protested. You're not doing it right, said Scootaloo. You don't stamp on the ground, you push it against it so you send the scooter forward. Here, let me. No way! Apple Bloom pushed her gently back, looking and sounding like her sister in that moment. You just sit back and relax. We'll do the hard work. We'll be back in Ponyville in no time. Scootaloo made a noise caught somewhere between the argument and aggression, as Sweetie Belle tried twice more, and they made a little progress. While the scooter and wagon did move, their momentum was sluggish. She was panting before they had even passed the tree line. "This is harder than it looks," she said between pushes. "You want me to try?" offered Applebloom. "Not yet. I can do it." 5 pushes later, she conceded to the point and they switched places. Sweetie Belle panted and fanned herself as Applebloom's strong, farm-strength legs shoved them forward at a much faster clip. She had more stamina too, and quickly figured out how to get the maximum movement for each push. "This is fun," she declared. "Look at how fast I can make us go." "Not as fast as me," Scootaloo muttered. "What?" Applebloom looked over her shoulder. "Did you say something?" "Nope," Scootaloo shook her head. "Just watch out for the sticky, uppy tree roots. Last time I went over them too fast, I had three wheels back on and covered in oil. I had to take a bath." She stuck out her tongue. Bathwater and feathers did not get along. "Will do, whee!" Applebloom gave an especially powerful shove and threw back her head, ribbon fluttering in the breeze. "I could see why you like this thing so much, Scootaloo." The speed wasn't the only reason, but Scootaloo didn't feel like sharing the others. Some other times she might have told her friends that riding her scooter was like flying close to the ground, or that she loved it, especially because Rainbow Dash had given it to her. The other fillies and colts had been prickling on even more than usual, but the blow was now softened when they all went to watch a specially acrobatics display performed by Rainbow Dash and several hand-picked Pegasi in the park. The Pegasi had bitten down on the canisters of colored gas and made vapor trails in the shape of words and pictures across the sky. It was the single greatest thing Scootaloo had ever seen, eclipsed only when Rainbow Dash brought herself down a cloud and they bucked it out, synchronizing lightning bolts for her to dodge. Afterwards, Scootaloo had waited in line to get a picture taken with her hero and the other Pegasi. She had asked for flying advice, and Rainbow Dash herself had answered, citing wing strengthening and stick-to-it-tiveness, with Scootaloo wasn't so sure was even a word, but it sounded like awesome anyway. From that day forward, nothing could have convinced her that Rainbow Dash was anything but than awesomeness incarnate her, and saved her every bit of pocket money to buy a scooter to help strengthen her wings. Scootaloo was jolted out of her thoughts by a sudden bump that made her leg hurt. "Hey, watch it!" "Sorry," Applebloom sounded apologetic, but mostly gleeful. "This is just so much fun!" She shoved again, shaking her head, and the cool breeze ran through her sweaty mane. Sweetie Belle pointed and shrieked, "Look out! What? There! Watch out!" Applebloom learned to compensate that something she had not yet seen herself. It was the worst thing she would have done. Her weight shifted and the scooter tilted. She threw herself back the other way, but it sent it off to the path that it held an undergrowth. The rabbit had been avoiding the shot of the other direction. All 3 fillies yelled as if they shot through low-hanging branches. A rock caught in the wagon's left back wheel, sending it to the air like a bucking bronco. An uneven ground tore the scooter handle from Applebloom's grasp as she fell off, rolling aside and then behind her friends as they carried on to the madcap rush without her. A ditch finally put an end to their journey, tipping both Sweetie Belle and Scootaloo into the air. "This is getting embarrassing," Scootaloo thought as she packed herself up and tried not to call out at the fresh pain in her leg and the head. Crashing landly this badly twice in one day? Thank Celestia, no pony was around to see this one. "Sweetie Belle? Over here!" A white head popped out from a thorn bush, wincing at the barbs caught her in her mane. "Are you okay?" "Okay-ish," Scootaloo replied. Her leg hurt even more than ever. "How about you?" "Fine. Applebloom?" She raised her voice to call. "Here!" She came cantering up to stand at the edge of the ditch. "I think I broke my butt when I landed on it, but I ain't hurt really." She wrinkled her nose. "Pew-wee! What is that smell? Did you all have a sewage pit or something? It smells like a manticore's toilet." "Oh, ew!" Sweetie Belle pranced in place. Fluttershy was an expert on animals and had told them that manticores were like cats, and they were very clean and made their bathrooms in one spot away from their feeding ground. "I hope it's not really some animal's toilet. Rarity would kill me if I come home smelling like that." It did smell bad. The heat called its flies to the smell, and they were testing it out. Sweetie Belle and Scootaloo as new targets too. Scootaloo tossed her head and immediately regretted it. She wobbled and tipped sideways with a short groan. Okay, not doing that again. Scootaloo? Concern coated Applebloom's voice like caramel on red delicious. Hang on, I'll be right down here. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. I'm sorry. I never meant to get you hurt more. She skidded down to the side of the ditch and landed in the bushes, much less spiky than Sweetie Belle's. Her head came up and she started coming towards them but stopped, raising her foot to steady it. She turned into a small circle and then back towards them, so fast she nearly fell over herself. What is it? Sweetie Belle asked. What's wrong? Applebloom's face had gone a slack of emotion Scootaloo didn't recognize. She raised her hoof and pointed to where she landed, right under the biggest cloud of flies. The tip of her hoof was stained with something sticky that had picked up thorns and bits of dirt. With a sinking feeling, Scootaloo started forward, brushing off Sweetie Belle's protest to stay still and the rest of her leg. She nosed aside the bushes to reveal a mass of tangled yellow hair. She couldn't tell whether it was mane or tail since it was attached to a pile that alternated between pale coat, red meat, and chalky white bone. Only one intact hoof confirmed that the pile had once been a pony. Scootaloo's mouth tasted sour, her insides twisted. She felt like she was going to throw up, not just from the awful stink of a dead body left out in the heat of the day. What is it? Sweetie Belle appeared over her shoulder. No, don't look. Too late. Sweetie Belle was helplessly squeamish. When she caught a sight of her remains, her horrified scream echoed throughout almost the entire Everfree forest. Applejack raised her head. What in tarnation? That sounded like a scream. Monochrome took off before she could stop him, crashing through the undergrowth of the stumbling canter. Twinkle, Twinkle, where are you? Hold on there. Applejack chased after him. Wait! The search party had split into two pairs to canvass the area around Monochrome and Glimmer's house. Spike, of course, had gone with Twilight. The White Ponies had a cottage not far on the edge of town. It wasn't in Ponyville at all. Surrounded by free sides of woodland, the perimeter of Sweet Apple Acres wasn't far, so she had been surprised to realize that she was actually helping her own neighbors. It did, however, mean that she would call home and fetch Wona to pick up the search. Twilight and Applejack agreed that sending the distraught parents off together would be counterproductive. Instead, they had taken each and chosen one direction to escort. Gosh darn it, Applejack grunted, as she was forced to leap a fallen tree trunk covered in mushrooms. Her hind hoof caught one, sending up a spray of white chunks. Monochrome, wait! Then the scream came again. Something about it sounded too familiar for comfort. Winona picked up speed, barking frantically, which she recognized as well. Twinkle! Twinkle! Monochrome shoved aside a branch that snapped back in Applejack's face. Ow! She stumbled, glanced off the bark of the trunk and wriggled her face, just to make sure it wasn't broken. Her cheek burned at the branch had caught her. The screaming grew louder, and as it got closer, Applejack, it was not just one voice. The noise finally accumulated in three small bodies crashing through the underbrush. They ran blindly towards her. She recognized them, skidded to a halt and stuck out a foreleg in clothesline maneuver to stop them in their tracks. Applebloom, she yelled over the screams. Her little sister looked up at her with a tear-stained face. Applejack? What in tarnation is going on? Applejack! Applebloom threw herself at her, sobbed in behind her. Sweetie Belle also cried. Scootaloo looked wan and shaken, balancing on three legs while holding the bandaged foot off the ground. Her little orange body shook and tail tucked between her legs. They were all terrified. Did some pony hurt you? Applejack knelt to cradle her sister. Applebloom shook her head and buried her face into her shoulder. It was horrible, Sweetie Belle wept. Just lying there. And all that. Applejack opened her hug to the other two fillies, but only Sweetie Belle rushed to the embrace. Scootaloo stayed where she was, and her reaction to whatever just happened more subdued than her friends. Scootaloo, Applejack cried. What's going on? We found a body, Scootaloo said haltingly, or what was left of one. Applebloom walked into it before she realized what it was. Applejack's stomach sank to her hooves. No matter No wonder Apple Bloom was almost hysterical. What do you mean a body? Do you mean a rabbit or a deer maybe? Did you find some meal left by some animal behind? She asked hopefully. Scootaloo shook her head, dashing Applejack's hopes. It was a meal, all right, but it wasn't some kind of animal in the way you were thinking. It was a pony. She looked nauseous. There were teeth marks on Wanda's chew toys on the bone. All that blood, Sweetie Belle whimpered. It was all over the ground. And on my hooves, Apple Bloom added. I stepped in it, Applejack. I stepped right in it. I didn't mean to. Honest, I didn't know it was there, and I walked into it. A fresh scream ran out. This one was deeper, but anguish was no less heart-wrenching. Winona ran her wings around the little group of ponies, barking to protect them from the noisemaker and whatever other unseen evil she sensed. Applejack barely recognized Monochrome's voice, but she could make out the word buried in shriek, no. Any hope she might have had for the least of three fillies were mistaken, vanished, as any hope on finding Twinkle alive. Shh, it's okay, she soothed. You're all safe now. I won't let any pony hurt you. It wasn't any pony that did that, Scootaloo said dully. No pony could do that. It was all ripped to shreds. Regardless, I'm here now, and I'll protect you. Apple Bloom and Sweetie Belle pressed tight to her, the way Apple Bloom used to when she was a foal and had a nightmare, before she was too old for cuddles or sneaking into her big sister's bed to make their night terrors stay away. Applejack wasn't unsure of what to do. She wanted to stay with the fillies, but Monochrome's screams had subsided, and she needed to know why. Moreover, she needed to appraise herself for the situation at hand. She had promised to help find Twinkle, but not anticipated anything like this. Still, she felt her duty bound to see her promise through at its end. Her quandary was solved when two sets of hoofbeats signaled the arrival of Twilight and Glimmer. Applejack then leapt up and spun to face them, planting her body in their path. Apple Bloom and Sweetie Belle clung to her hind legs. We heard screaming, Twilight said breathlessly. What happened? It sounded like Monochrome, said Glimmer. Applejack couldn't meet Glimmer's pale eyes. How did you tell a mare something like this? And all she could think was that Glimmer could not go and see no matter what no mother would ever should. Apple Bloom? Spike spotted her hiding. Sweetie Belle? Scootaloo? What are you guys doing out here? Glimmer peered and looked around. Applejack. Those are Twinkle's classmates. What happened to them? Scootaloo looked up sharply against several things that clicked together. That was Twinkle? What was Twinkle? Glimmer demanded. She took a step forward, but Applejack buried her away. Move aside. What do they know about my daughter? Do they know where she is? They have to tell me. They have to. She looked at Applejack and read stern and distressed. Her face crumbled. Oh no, no! I'm sorry. You're wrong. She's not. We have to keep looking. We have to find her. She could be anywhere. She's probably hurt or lost or out of my way. With a surprising strength, she shouldered Applejack aside, jumped over the crying fillies, and ran to the undergrowth, following the trail of broken branches and fawns. Monochrome! Monochrome, where are you? Applejack? Twilight said softly. Are you sure? Wait here, Applejack ordered. I'm fast enough to catch her. Winona! Featuring Twilight's magic was enough protection for her and the others. Applejack summoned the dog to accompany her. The ditch wasn't very far away. Applejack caught up enough to see Glimmer disappear over the edge and hear anguished cries. She crested the edge to find Monochrome had trampled and kicked aside the greenery to reveal their daughter's remains. The word body didn't amplify description of the collection of bloody chunks and other things. Applejack's gorge rose. Beside her, Winona growled at the scent of rotting meat and whatever else sensitive her nose could pick up. Monochrome and Glimmer hugged each other as she watched, unable to do anything except let them cry themselves out.
What's up, my pretties? It's the Lion Queen here. I want to appreciate you all for tuning into this video, and I do appreciate you guys supporting my video by giving this video likes and stuff. If you really enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe if you're new, ring the bell for notifications to when I upload so that way you guys will get updated for whenever I upload. If you want to follow me on Twitter or DeviantArt, feel free to leave to leave a follow on those if you are interested in following me on those socials. If you want to support my backup channel, known as Ms. Dark Shigo, feel free to subscribe to it, as a link to that will also be in the About page section. And with that being said, and that being the case, thank you so much for watching, my pretties, and as always, stay pretty.